Welcome back to another video, and in this one we'll be addressing a problem that has been bugging me for quite a while, and one of the reasons why not many videos on the Hikey 960 have been put up since my last one about the Android TV, I'm guessing. And the reason is that the I/O ports on the Hikey 960 run on a 1.8 volt, so on a 1.8 volt logic. So that means even the UART port or pretty much everything else runs on 1.8 volts, and it's really hard to get something that can work well with the 1.8 volt UART, and that is the reason I've not been able to experiment with a lot of stuff right now. So today we are going to solve that issue in under $5. So we are going to use this USB to TTL chip, and this is a FTDI 232 based equipment. And as you can notice, there are three pins right here. Again, I will be having some high-res images of this if it's not focused. So you have three pins here. One is for 5 volt, the other one is for 3.3 volt, and the reason being it has a 3.3 volt regulator inside. But this particular chip is very much compatible with 1.8 volts, and the center one is the voltage sense port, or if you want to call it VCC IO. So that's the VCC voltage for the IO port, so RX, TX and ground. So the reason you cannot get it to work with 1.8 volts directly is because there is no internal regulator that would provide 1.8 volts. But now we can actually, according to the chip specification, and we're not going out of spec here, attach something like this. I really hope the camera is focusing right now. Now this is a 1117 1.8 volt LDO, or low dropout voltage regulator, which allows you to go from 5 to 1.8 volts without generating too much heat. And this is a linear regulator, so no switching stuff there, and this actually works pretty well. Now for those of you who might say that we can take 1.8 volts out directly out of the Hikey 960 or any other 96 boards consumer edition, the reason being you cannot. This chip requires the VCC IO to come from the same source as the VCC, so it has to be regulated from the VCC on the same ground, on the same pretty much everything. So you cannot have an external VCC IO source, that won't work. So we are going to use a middle sense pin and attach this device something right here. So I have marked out two pins right here, so the one being for voltage and the other being for ground. The first pin is ground, the second pin is your output voltage, so that would be the regulated voltage, and that is also what the tab is for. And then your uh, third pin is for voltage input, and we'll be taking a look at that and how to get it on there. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and super glue it right here, attach it to the pins, and then run a wire from here to a jack that simply plugs in here. So that way we can still operate at 5 volts and 3.3 volts, and we can still operate at your regular 1.8 volts when we are using it with the Hikey 960. Now how we are going to do that, let's take a look, and probably some time lapse. So first of all, let's take some super glue and attach it right in the center. Alright, so after a bit of corrections, it turns out that VCC marked on this layout right here is actually VCCIO, so you are not supposed to take the voltage from VCC. It is actually from the 5 volt pin that you are uh, to take the voltage for the LDO, the input voltage. And now everything, the all the logic ports are at, all the logic pins are at 1.8 volts. So this is our 5 volt pin, this is our RX pin, and this should be our TX pin, which is at point or at 1.8 volts, so that's perfectly bang on. And then our VCCIO supposed to be right here, again bang on 1.8 volts. So there we go, we have finally made a UART to USB converter at 1.8 volts, and that should work with pretty much everything. So just to recap, we used an FTDI232 based UART to USB module that had that had onboard converters for 5 volt and 3 volt, which in turn gave us access to the VCCIO pin, which is pin number 4 on this IC. And then we stuck a LDO, which is a 1117 at 1.8 volts, and gave it voltage in from 5 volts and ground from ground, and then use the voltage out pin to feed the VCC IO. And now we have all our IO ports running at bang on 1.8 volts. Now we can go ahead and hook this on to our Hikey 960, and let's see how that goes.